Thank you, everybody. And I also thank the organizers for this wonderful conference that I haven't been out of the country much since COVID, so I'm really happy to have these wonderful synergies and this fantastic hosting, so many intellectual connections that we had during the days. So now I'm going to talk about the Hungarian contemporary dance scene, but more from the political part and less from the aesthetic, but I will try to combine everything. So the Hungarian contemporary dance scene, which has emerged in the 1980s, is still very much influenced by the first teachers or mentors and an establishment structure, a system that hasn't changed since the fall of the Iron Curtain. So lots of things have changed, but mainly we are still coming from these socialist structures of institutions and also these great divides between the ballet and the classical dance and the contemporary dance field. So there's not much communication with each other. People don't go to each other's performances. If you start one way, you don't really end up on the other side. So it's very, there are very big divides between the different parts of the dance field. And this is also one of the reasons why there is nothing like, you know, a platform where everybody from Hungary can unite who are in some part of the theater and dance field. So just a very short historical backdrop that I can connect to. In the 1930s, we also had these wonderful ladies who went abroad and studied and were students of Isadora Duncan, Mary Wigman, and had this expressionistic dance styles, which they brought back to Hungary. And they created a movement which was called the movement art, or orchestica in Hungary. And if it hadn't been banned by the state, then maybe we would have the postmodern dance revolution in Hungary as well. And we would have our Pina Bausch or Merce Cunningham. But of course, it totally vanished and disappeared. And the ballet was still going strong. The Vaganova school is still, up till nowadays, it's very a massive part of the Hungarian dance education. Just like Jadwiga also mentioned, when I was a small girl, they took me to the ballet class and immediately started the training. So it's like almost every second Hungarian little girl who wants to do some dance, they are being put into ballet schools. And I was very lucky that later on I had influences from my friends, and I wasn't very fit for ballet, so I tried looking for other forms of dance where they don't mind that I'm not really systematic, following the rules, that I don't have the perfect plie and stuff. So, and actually just one more thing going back to this orchestrica, or the movement art. 1 year ago, we awarded the Laban Prize for a very special project created by Boglárka Börcsök, and it's titled Figuring Age. And she actually, she is a dancer, contemporary dancer. She works with Esther Salamon in Brussels most of the time. And then she decided she's going to do a project on this orchestra movement, and she made very long interviews, like documentary style interviews, with 3 of the oldest living dancers in Hungary. And she recorded the movements. That was one part of the project, like a dance documentary. And the other part was she learned the movement. and she recreated those dances, those performances in contemporary setting. So it's an insane project, very fantastic, very long. It's like over 3 hours, and she's also doing some live performances on that, really reacting and reimagining those orchestrica, this very orchestrated, very expressionistic movement language in contemporary setting. And maybe you can start the first trailer so I can show you this figuring age. Oh, this is not the one. This one before, not this. No. Actually, it's not there, so maybe. No, never mind. Okay. So it's a very nice project, and it was of course funded by not by Hungarians, but she's working in Brussels and she gets some subsidies there. So she had the time and the energy to put into this project for like 3 years that she has worked on. And just jumping back to the 80s. Maybe you have heard the terms goulash communism or Hungary as the happiest barracks in the socialist bloc. There was so much going on in the 80s. We already had the softer liberal communism, this goulash communism, with our dictator János Kádár, who was really like a father figure for the nation, and he was like he was very, like he tried to put himself like he was a good father of the nation, and people were not put into jail and terminated for their political ideas. And it was already, we saw that the communism is going to end soon. So in the 80s, we had the full-blown alternative punk rock underground scene. There were places like venues, studios, bars opening up, first illegally. It was almost like Berlin. Like there was so much going on, and even artists inhabited those first illegal spaces. And we had, for example, the first graffiti in whole Eastern Europe in one of those spaces. And they brought in so many wonderful impulses, and of course Western trends, and in music, in the whole way of thinking. We also had great performance arts, just like Marina Abramovic. It was the same time. And we also had artists from abroad who were, for example, El Kazovsky. She was one of our Marina Abramovic, a fine artist also, but she was also creating live shows where she staged bodies, even children, in very unusual settings, and it was hugely controversial, very scandalous, and of course conservative people thought that it was, you know, the hell broke loose, and there were already companies forming like Artus, Shaman, or the natural disasters with a very strong female presence, of course. And many of those creators are still active, although they have, part of them transformed to the system and became very mainstream. For example, Yvette Božič, maybe you've heard of her. She's one of the directors and artistic directors of the Hungarian Palace of Arts, which is a totally mainstream, very conservative place. And she, the shows that she creates now are mainly conservative, and the so-called contemporary ballet, which is only contemporary in terms that it's happening now. So, yeah, there were the first places which were also accepting dance or giving space to these very mostly improvised, but also very interesting interdisciplinary stuff, because we also had synergies with, then we had synergies with the ballet field, with the folk dance movement, which was very big in Hungary, and still is. So at the University of Dance in Budapest, you have two faculties. One is ballet and the other one is folk dance. And also we have a very strong musical education starting from the very small childhood. It's called the Kodály method, after the famous composer. And actually I still hear from contemporary dancers that they are chosen for this or that big Western company because they have this musical education. And this is profound in their whole artistic career. And so there were very much experimental and daring materials, and while there was the state ballet and the conservatory, later it was named the University of Dance, and actually the first modern dance courses were introduced end of the 1990s and after the millennia, because there were already some people working there at the university who had access to the European dance field, and they brought in the new techniques, but mainly it was Limon and Graham and nothing all too much alternative. Like I think they started contact improvisation after 2010, maybe. So it was very late when the really contemporary techniques got to them. And there were, of course, very famous creators who worked in exile, who were actually chased away or banned from the country. For example, Pál Frenak, who was working in France, and he was also a revolutionary in Hungarian contemporary dance. But in the recent years, he became also mainstream and still produces wonderful pieces, but not so daring anymore. Or there is József Nagy, who is also working in France. There is Eszter Salamon in Belgium. And there was Péter Halász, who went to New York with his company. And there was just recently a prize, a theatrical prize named after him. And they did mostly improvised stuff in unusual venues and underground happenings and events. And there was a turning point actually in 1993 when the Workshop Foundation was founded. And they started to bring in foreign choreographers just to do workshops. And it was like a whole new world. So they brought in Vicky Schick, who was a Trisha Brown dancer. They invited David Zambrano, Wim van de Cabos, Max Stewart. And there were all the students like crowded all these events and workshops, like, oh my God, this opens a whole new world, and this is dance, this is what I want to do. And after we joined the European Union and the movement of students became even more free, many students from Hungary went to study in Parts, in Brussels, in Seed, in Salzburg, Codarts, Rotterdam, and they also became part of the global or more European global dance scene. They became, they were accepted or auditioned to big companies like Rosas, to Hofeschächter. They even went to Cirque du Soleil because the Hungarian dancers have, many of them have extremely great physical abilities and also this musicality, and they have a very strict, they are very much trained, they have good muscular bodies and great movers and very good improvisers, and they could fit into this dance scene very well. Very few went to Germany because this Tanztheater style is very far from the Hungarian, more instinctive and more improvised style. And many people worked in the Czech Republic, in Prague, or in Slovak Republic with choreographers like Anton Laki. And some people went to Ljubljana to work with Isto Kovac, and few people worked with Emmanuel Gatt in Charleroi and got dance web scholarships as well. So even some people even went to Israel and worked with dance companies there. But it was due to the cultural difference, it was much harder. So only a few people went to Israel. So. And actually, in 2017, I did a huge project for the theater magazine. I was commissioned to do a project for them and to talk to over 20 artists who were working abroad, or either with many bases, or they just returned, or they never want to return, and I did lots of interviews with them. It was a massive amount of work even when it was published, and it was for some people who were in the scene, it was revelatory, like seeing that we are all in this. And all the Hungarians, not all, but many Hungarian dancers are facing the same challenges. Either they go abroad and they try to build an existence, and then try to maybe work on their darling projects when they come home, or they don't have a future, they don't have a vision in Hungary. Like, what are they going to do when they are not fit for Cirque du Soleil anymore? And there was also problems. We didn't have proper health care. They didn't have. They weren't insured, like Social Security. So there were a lot of problems which had. And also because the international scene was very attractive. So these both were motivating factors for the Hungarian dancers to go abroad. And I just collected a few of the thoughts that I've learned there during the interviews. This one was Zoltán Vakuja, a freelancer who works in Brussels still. I wanted to come home. I was looking for possibilities, but I only saw artists at home being suffocated. If I had stayed, I would have been broken by that environment too. It still took years of personal work to overcome all the frustration and depression that I've brought from home. The next one is Csaba Molnár. He's a serial Laban Award winner. He's a fantastic dancer. He was actually born in the Slovak Hungarian region, but he works in Budapest most of the time. He used to work in Italy. It is important for me to be able to work abroad as well. Some things function better there, and it changes the process of creation that everything is accessible. There is some money for creation, but the distribution is very problematic. Premieres are fetishized, and there are hardly any possibilities for reruns. Dancers have no self-representation. You need to be crazy not to care about that your feet could break anytime. And one more from Attila Rónai, who danced in, I think he stopped dancing for Hofer-Schechter company, but you know, the benchmark is super high there, so he's one of the few who made it to the biggest international career and tour around the world. I would love to go back home, but I am not motivated. Too many catfights and picking on each other. Artists are not valued. Here, the circumstances are more correct. There are no unpaid jobs. And just last one from Emil Bordás, who was now based in Berlin, and he works with Constanza Makras, and he will not come back. I would love to work at home, but I know as a Roma dancer, I would never get any grants. I am not in the circle who would receive subsidies. As a young choreographer, life is extremely hard in Hungary, whilst when I'm abroad, I feel no boundaries. So it's dramatic, isn't it? So, and then already at that point, many people alluded or they pointed at the big problems of mental health that the dance scene has had very toxic workplaces where choreographers were abusing their dancers, and there was body shaming, there was verbal abuse, and this is, well, actually, I know it can happen in Western companies too, but in Hungary, whenever something like this came out, it went into victim blaming and a very quick rehabilitation of the perpetrators. So they might have resigned from the head of the company, but then they were quickly re-accepted. And however, after the millennium, so coming now to nowadays, there was a new generation of choreographers who studied at the Budapest Contemporary Dance School, which was also founded in the 90s by Ivan Angelus, who is one of the great masters of contemporary dance in Hungary. And they started creating movement-based performances, which are actually theater performances as well. They qualify as theater performances. And they are also using text, they are using everything that qualifies as a theater performance. And no wonder that these performances get all the prestigious prizes from both scenes. So first, the dance curators that I'm working with, they were totally pissed off that the theater people are taking our dancers, you know, they want to award them. They are choosing the same performances, like the best of the year. And then, because there was this sentiment that we have to be very protective for our little dance scene, we have to stick together, we are doing this in unpaid jobs, like all this curatorial work is totally unpaid. Maybe you can get a small fee for writing, but we have to work other jobs as well. So it was a huge clash with also with Tamás, who's a very famous dance critic, theater critic in Hungary, and he was also in the Halas committee, and the Laban committee and the Halas committee totally clashed, and they lasted for months. That we were debating like who can choose what to award, and then COVID came, and it became pointless because they shut down theaters and all the venues, even studios, for over 1.5 years. And you cannot even do studio work or rehearse, whilst people were allowed to go to casino, to football games. Yeah, so... And now I have a few trailers that I would like to show. Can you please start the Holdworks? Just very quickly. This performance is created by Adrienne Hold. She's one of the best contemporary choreographers that we have, and she has a very special work method with working with these unusual bodies. And she works with she's trying to balance the professional dancers with all the atypical bodies. The title refers to how we idolize bodies and the normativity, how we are treating bodies and people with different abilities. You can start the next trailer. This is the diorama group. Potatoes, a symbol of buying votes in Hungary. It's also kind of a theater education project. They are using music and dance and even creating an installation live. This is Palinka, the famous Hungarian spirits. The next one is this is a fantastic performance. It's called Game Changer. It's also received the Laban Prize and the Halas Prize. It's actually one of the problematic stuff that we couldn't agree about, but they are really challenging the rules of theater. It's also very strongly text-based, but you know, the trailer only contains the dance scenes. For example, they are doing dance for trash pop music, but very wonderful contemporary improvisations. And they also cut a hole into the stage of Trafo, the biggest dance venue, and then with an X. And the X became a symbol, actually, of you know, groundbreaking contemporary performances. And they continued, and they passed on the X. And you can start the next one, and maybe I don't have too much time. Szabó Réka that Tamás was referring to yesterday. She's been creating for over 20 years.
Fekszem a puha ágyban,
Very feminine topics,
erőtlenül és úszok a
childbirth,
delíriumban.
about becoming a
Kinyitom
mother.
a szememet, és azt gondolom, hogy minden jó, ahogy van, és
She's also
semmi
working with
miatt nem
improvisation
aggódom.
and this personal input from the dancers, from their own stories of giving birth. And also this very abusive environment in the hospital where women are treated really badly.
Átjössz ebből a delíriumból, és találkozol a valósággal, és ez, amikor ez a két erő találkozik, abban vagyok most.
And I only have one last trailer, The Slippery. But maybe we can leave it because I'm running out of time. So just back to the politics, we have this Minister of Culture and Innovation. So in Hungary, it's connected to innovation. He is a manager type. And what Tamás said, he told many times, go get your funding. And if you cannot sell your performances, find patrons and don't rely on the state. But this is insane because it has no tradition in Hungary. People are not patronizing arts. And contemporary art has never been self-sufficient. They couldn't make ticket income as much. And also we have this director, Attila Vidnyánszky, who's the manager of the National Theater, and he's actually a very potent political person. There are rumors that he is going to really direct the whole Hungarian theatrical scene, and he is going to dispose of all the monies and venues, and he is going to be the one who will elect directors, and he's really influential. And recently he submitted his resignation because there was an accident during a performance in the National Theater, but his resignation was not accepted by the Minister of Culture, so it was a comedy, actually. And then we have, on the other hand, Szilveszter Okovács, also a very potent political figure. He's the head of the State Opera, who started his own ballet school because he was not he didn't like the ballet dancer who came out of the university, so he started a fight with the university, and he came out also winning. So just to tell you this situation, that people who come to a political power and all these very prestigious positions have political power, they can do whatever they want. They cannot fail. They can fail only upwards. And maybe, as Tamás said yesterday, Béla Pintér is the only exception of the rule who could rent his own venue, he could finance his own company. He has sold out shows every, 7 shows a week. On the other hand, he lives like a hermit. He's very self-absorbed. He doesn't engage in cultural life. He doesn't even give interviews. He just has his own place. So just the last piece of the context, I want to quote Árpád Schilling, who just recently gave an interview to Népszava, the newspaper that I work for. Workers, and he's actually living in France now. Workers in the Hungarian art field have to live off and sustain their families out of state subsidies. Most of these people live with a bitter and self-destructive feeling that they are part of a totally unacceptable and unchangeable system created by the far-right government, and they have to play according to their rules. I don't judge the ones who have to endure oppression and humiliation. out of sheer necessity and from being unable to change this, but I sincerely feel sorry for the ones who have no chance to leave. The Hungarian theater scene is not running out of breath, but out of spirit. Solidarity evaporates, self-defense as well. Silent resignation and looking for excuses follows. They did leave small circles of freedom where people can complain as much as they wish, but they have made sure that nothing can be changed. The Hungarian state is openly not representing all of its citizens and deliberately destroying the life of significant groups of society. The system cannot be changed due to the will of the Hungarian citizens, and this is indeed a tragedy. It is then insignificant what happens in theaters or on movie screens. Some valuable productions can be still backed up by crowdfunding, and talent hasn't ceased to flourish, which is a huge value. Maybe the younger generations might rise over this suicidal way of thinking and figure a way out of this empty talk and self-acquittance. But it is extremely difficult to see behind the commonly accepted lie and to act and create from the hard-earned inside. If someone wants to fight for a change in spite of the impossible, they have to see clearly what they are fighting for and against. Who is constantly aiming at the middle might mean it well, but is just beating around the bush. We need a radical, real left and proper theoretical backup to combat the rise of fascism around the world. So I finished with this, and maybe we can start debating whether you think he's right, that we need a radical left political thinking, and I don't know what you think about his opinion. And thank you so much for listening.